only 58 people running around there.
So, now that we have so much fewer people, we actually don't need that much land to feed them, and it actually sells for quite a lot, so I'm gonna keep selling.
Yeah, it does. There's a lot of friggin' bushels, yes, for sure.
I'm gonna sell.
Alright.
And that's ate so much of my thing, man. How many
Yes.
bushels do you wish to feed your people? So, I fed them for 100 and something. I hadn't, so I guess something along these lines. That makes sense. And now I have 700. I think again, you only have 200. What? How?
You bought.
Oh, Jesus! Oh, Jesus!
I was like, you sure?
Why didn't you tell me? I said I want to sell.
Yeah, I know. And
you
just entered 200 was like, yeah, he wants to sell, but what is he doing now?
Why did you do that to me? You knew I was doing it wrong.
Hey man,
Why? Why didn't you?
I'm not your steward. You're your own. Ask your steward. Why did he die? There should have been somebody who's like, do you really want to do this?
I actually am gonna plant all of them now. Oh Lord!
You
are
doing so well.
We are done.
You are doing so well.
I don't know. None. Go. Yeah.
Yes.
Everybody's dead.
Everybody's dead.
I was doing so well. I was in track for winning this game. I was on track. Shit.
Alright.
This is not a PG-13. Fuck.
There's no undo button in the basic games.
Oh my Lord. You knew it.
I knew it.
You
but,
knew it.
I'm very happy for you to bring some life to this stream. All right. Can we do one more round?
Yeah, let's do one.
All right. No more mistyping now. All right.
New Jersey.
New Jersey.
New Jersey.
Yes, I will talk a little bit about the gall of that particular statement that they make you code in one basic games, because it's awkward.
How many?
So you've got 100. That's how you can now see, by the way, that you always start with the same numbers.
Yeah, but
with the acceptance of the trading.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This is not the same.
I assume that was COVID 1. Yes, that was COVID number 1.
Yeah.
The horrible plague that struck.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. And then there was another act of God.
Yeah.
Temporarily befuddled the mind of this mighty ruler over here.
Yeah. All right, we're doing well. We're doing okay. Rats. God damn this rats.
That's why. That's another like very nice middle of the 20th century expletive like rats.
Yeah. Land is trading at 23. I will sell one. Will first not buy.
Well, you would actually gain some money from how much you.
I think so.
I mean, you would get 2 bushels profit, quote unquote. But anyway, that's up to you. I'm gonna say right now, in the interest of actually letting you don't want to sell for too much.
Yeah,
not too much, because at the end, it's actually if you were like.
But I'm expecting just one more year that would be good, maybe, and then the prices will drop. Just expectation.
Expectations.
So I'm not gonna buy. I'm gonna sell 100, and we'll see next year what we do.
I like how you're like, people, no worries. It's also very good. It's very conservative.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna, wait.
Plague. Now we hit the plague. Too soon.
That's COVID number 2.
So now my population is 59 and we have 700 acres. But see, now we can buy really cheap.
That's true. 18 bushels per acre.
So now we can buy 300 and go back to 1,000. Although we can't really plant all of them, but we can sell them later much in a higher price.
Yes, yeah.
How many do you want to feed? 59. So we want to feed them about 1,400, I believe.
Yeah,
that sounds about correct.
Well,
maybe a bit more.
Yes,
1,600.
Actually, let's think about this for realsies now. No,
1,600 sounds about correct.
Yeah, that's even more than you need.
Yeah, probably. How many acres do you wish to plant? With 1,000, I guess we cannot use them all, right? It will tell me you don't have enough people for
exactly.
This. So 600 then.
Yeah, try.
No, 590. What, 500? There we go. Oh, we can buy even more. Much
Yeah,
cheaper.
woohoo!
Although we don't have almost any bushels now, which kind of sucks.
But that's why you would. Yeah, that sucks.
That does suck.
That 1 bushel per.
How
Yes.
did oh, because we didn't make much, I guess.
No, you didn't. You didn't. Get
But
it.
I feel
also
like we
it's
lost
1 bushel per
6,000.
acre.
Yeah. Is it always 1 bushel per acre and I haven't noticed? Or?
No. Last time it was 5 bushels per acre.
Yeah, so we didn't have a good year.
Yeah.
So that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
We do have to sell a bit now if we want to make it, I think. Because we have 77 people as well.
Yeah.
I feel like we have to sell quite a
It could
bit.
always be that there's a little bug in somewhere with that. If you think we lost 6,000, I don't think we did actually, because you did end up buying a lot of acres still.
Oh,
Alright.
shit. I don't want to buy. Again, I'm gonna make the same mistake. No, 0. I want to sell 200. How many bushels?
Oh, you were actually.
Yeah, I was gonna... How many bushels?
Thank
do
you. Thankfully, the game
Yeah.
doesn't allow you to get into the red by your own volition.
Yeah. So I sold 200. I acquired about 3,400. And in that case, I want to feed my people. Again about 1,600, I guess, and then plant. I believe I can plant 700.
Yeah.
Doing well. Doing okay. I beg to. So, 88 people now. We made some more money. I don't think
Bushels.
bushels. I'm sorry. Can we make a year now that we don't sell or buy? We just have a.
Yes, I think you can.
I think we should be able.
It's probably
to.
even good to do now.
Yeah, I think so. So we don't buy. We don't sell. We have 88 people, so we need to feed them about 1,900. And then we have 800 hackers. Damn.
Bam.
Very good.
Yeah, very good indeed. You seem to be getting there.
I seem to be getting there. Although now the land is very expensive. Oh, we lost nothing to rats. That's very nice.
Oh, no rats.
You know what? I'm gonna do.
Talking about rats, if you're into rats, you should watch the stream that we did 2 weeks and 3 weeks ago.
I'm gonna put it up on YouTube soon.
Plague Tale.
It's there, yeah.
Very cool.
I think I'm gonna have another down year.
Like down, nothing happening.
Nothing happening. Yeah.
I like that. You're into the capitalist mind frame. Nothing happening means down.
Yeah, exactly.
Love it.
And this time we actually have to feed them about 2,000 because there are enough people, and then we still plant 800.
0 people starved. 5 came to the city. You actually made it to year 7.
That's going very well.
All right.
We have.
You have.
It's going okay. We're losing nothing to rats, which is pretty amazing, and we have a lot of puzzles right now to spare. But
Yes.
do we want to buy 26?
No, I think
I
that's
guess
gonna,
not.
that's gonna be breaking the bank.
Maybe actually we can sell 100. I think.
But you will only have 700 acres left.
I know. That's fine. That's fine. I'm gonna sell 100.
All right.
Because we can feed the people at 2,000. And we plant 700. 3 people starved and came to the city.
2 people. The people that came to your city, by the way, were like, "Yay! There's plenty of food here." You were like,
Nope.
"Denied. No food for
But
you."
now
here."
we can buy at 23, which is relatively okay.
Yeah.
So we can buy.
So one thing, while I was thinking through the numbers here, what I thought was so cool from Twitch is that you're actually able to just say, "We're playing Hamurabi."
Yeah,
So that's why we have millions of people flooding our channel at the moment.
million.
Because they're like, finally somebody's playing
Someone is
Hamurabi.
playing this game.
Yes. Anyway, I think it's pretty cool that it was
It
like
is,
in
yeah.
the options that you could choose in Twitch.
I think we're just gonna buy the 100 that we sold.
Yeah.
So we're back to 800. And we're at 110, so we feed 2200. And we plant all 800 fields. 0 people starved, 6 came to the city. Now we have a lot of people.
You're nearly there. Year 9.
Year 9. So 1 more year, right?
Yeah, you get to make a decision this year and the next year.
Oh, and
still.
the next year
Yeah.
still.
You're like, I don't want to fuck it up now.
I'm actually gonna sell the 100 that I just bought. And I feed them 1,300, I think. And then I plant 700. One person starved. We had a plague at the last year.
We had a plague at the last year. Oh no, really?
But 2 came to the city. But that's okay because we have plenty of money. And we have not enough people anyway to do this. So we can even sell some land if we wanted to. So that's what we're gonna do. We're not gonna buy 25, we're gonna sell 100. We're gonna feed our 58, we're gonna feed them 1,400, right? Maybe that's even too much, but that's okay. And
it's last year. Let them eat.
And we're gonna plant 500 because that's what we can. There we go. 0 people starved.
All right.
We made a lot of money.
You actually made it. You made it through your 10 years. And there's a nice syntax error. So there's an error in my code all the way at the end of the game.
Let's see. In your 10-year term of office, 1 point something % of the population starved, so not that many, per year on the average. A total of 7 people died. You started with 10 acres per person and ended with 9.6 acres per person. So we didn't make land, but we made population.
All right. So interestingly, one of the hard things I had in terms of testing whether I was actually doing it right is because, I didn't want to get to the whole end of the 10 years the whole time. So based on this, I'm actually going to read to you what you would be normally would be reported in text. And we can, even if we have time, we can even try to fix this later. All right. So I'm going to look up the page for Hamurabi. Let's see. I like that. I like that we ran into an error. Okay. Error in 895. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I love that we actually got this ending.
Why?
Okay. I'm going to talk about this right now. Yes. Because I actually had saved this when we were going to analyze the code. This is freaking excellent. Okay. What I'm not going to do, I'm going to bring up the code of... that is actually in 895. All right. So we're going to list 895. That's the place where in this program where this error is located. Yeah. So what do we see in this line?
895. If P1 less more than 3, then 916.
Okay. So P1 is, I can already give a bit of spoilers for later, is actually this running count of how many people, how much of the population actually died during your game.
Yeah.
So if it's more than a third, more than 3, then actually it's gonna go there.
Okay.
To line 960.
Yeah.
But you don't know much programming at all, or any.
Oh no, only some HTML.
Yeah, HTML. But even you, not even you, you can also logic this out.
Yeah.
So what do you think is wrong in this particular line of code?
What do I think?
Anybody that does any programming will spot this right away, almost.
Yeah.
All right. What do you think is wrong in this line of code? Just logic it out.
Oh, there's an extra if.
Exactly. So there is an extra if, and I actually left this in because in the actual, this is the 20-year-old or actually 30-year-old bug that I refer to you as in the basic computer games, the microcomputer edition. So this book over here, let's see through, and we'll get to talk about it a little bit more. It actually sold 1 million copies of this, and it had a bug in there for Hamurabi. Because actually here you can, I'll try to show it. So over here is all the way at the bottom. So over here.
Put our faces.
Oh yes, actually let's put our faces back on. That's actually easier. So 895. If P1 is more than 3, then we go to 960. So there's an actual bug in this actual program that was, actually there in the code. And this is even more hilarious. So David Al was kind of a brilliant person, bringing all of this fun to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But I do want to read out this particular line that he wrote in the basic language. So he has a little introduction to what the basic language is. And he wrote this thing. Let's see. Let me look it up. Okay, what can you do about it if you have a computer on which the programs will not run? First, do not call or write us. You have paid less than a dime per program, and after everyone has taken his share, we have made less than 1 cent per program. For that, we can't afford to act as personal consultants. So we cannot ask David.
No, clearly not.
We're not going to call him and say,
Alright.
dude, what's up here?
Agreed.
Okay. Let's see. It's probably over here.
That's why you need to keep notes, kids.
Yes, that's why you need to keep notes. Let me see. XPC irksome. This is. Let's keep in mind. That's your department. It's actually down in the thingies a little bit, in the PDF a little bit later, but I have to look it all up.
Let me check. In that case, let's check on the PDF.
Yeah, we can check on the PDF as well.
Fit on full page.
It actually is here. So we have this bug. Oh yeah, here it is.
Alright.
Actually, it was just right after that.
Yeah.
So first, do not call or write us. A second, please keep in mind that every program runs perfectly in Microsoft Basic 4.0. We're actually in Microsoft Basic 2.0 to be very precise, and the sample runs are not faked. So they have actually little sample runs of all the programs. They're not faked. They came off a real computer exactly as they appear. Listen up. There are no typographical errors in the programs. Misspellings maybe, but the functional code is absolutely correct. I don't want to be a smart ass, David Al, because you're probably much smarter than we are. So it actually says that right over yonder. I'm not making this up. So,
Yeah,
oh yeah.
This is absolutely correct. Absolutely correct.
Absolutely not correct.
Absolutely.
Because if is absolutely not correct.
As is demonstrated.
As is demonstrated. So
we can see
I'm still good. I was like, I made a mistake. But actually, that David who made a mistake. So that said, I'm actually going to read to you
Tell
what
me,
would
what's
happen.
in the line?
Alright, 960. Your performance could have been somewhat better, but really wasn't too bad at all. And then we actually do a small calculation about what percentage of the population actually wants you assassinated. So we cannot do that because,
Because the bug.
Yes. So X people dearly like to see you assassinated, but we all have our trivial problems. There would have probably been, like 5 people want to see you
not
assassinated.
that many.
Not that
I'm
many.
guessing.
So you actually made it to the second best ending.
All right, that's okay.
Not too bad. Not too bad
shabby.
at all.
Nice.
All right, very cool. So I was thinking we would never hit this bug, and I was like, I have to manually show it, but you actually managed to hit it. Very cool. That's why I didn't have it prepared in this book, and it's on the slide somewhere there. All right. So maybe a brief. This stream is going to run over a little bit. I can tell you already right now, because this was supposed to only take 10 minutes. Who knows? Not taking 10 minutes.
No.
So your review of this game.
My review of this game.
Yeah.
So I feel like once you understand what's going on, it's very easy to figure out how to play it, how to game it. It doesn't give you the information that you need in the beginning.
No.
So it's really about making a couple of trial runs until you figure out what you need to be doing.
Yeah.
It didn't feel particularly unfair in the sense that it's very clear that at least once or twice you will end up with a plague. At least on once or twice you will produce one bushel per acre, and at least once or twice there will be 0 bushels eaten by the rats. So it all cancels itself out, so it doesn't feel completely unfair.
Mm-hmm.
I can see how you can run in a year that's completely devastating, there's nothing you can do, and you just lose.
But you're saying
But
that
hey, that's fine.
this is a game that it's fair if you just rationale it out, then you sort of...
But once you rationale it out, it kind of stops being a game, even, because it's then just a mathematical problem, and that's all there is to it. Eventually, as you pointed out, I kept saying money and stuff, because at some point it doesn't matter.
Right.
It's just the equations that matter. Am I making the right calculations? Yes. I don't care if it's persons or rats or whatever, as long as the calculations are correct.
Yes, yeah, for sure. And I think one of the things that was interesting, though, that was happening, which is something that the game does not mean you, doesn't really tell you, and that's actually what you get if you get to the ending a couple of times. you were trying to maximize your bushels.
Yeah, that is not clear. To me, what I expected I should be doing is the least people that die, the better. I don't care about maximizing. I mean, I want
actually, in the end, you cared about maximizing your bushels. Of course, you also made sure that people didn't die because you found on your first run.
Yeah, but I only wanted to maximize my bushels so that I was safe in a bad year, not because it was...
Okay, very nice. I like that. You were like, I need to make sure that I can give my people what they need in a bad year.
Yeah, exactly. But that's...
So one thing that you did not do is try to maximize the amount of acres that you were owning.
No, because it didn't seem to... It seemed like for a certain amount of population, less acres than I was provided would suffice.
Yeah, it does. It does. Interestingly, the game, as we will look at later when we look at the code, actually scores you, yes, on how many people died, but secondly, on how much acres you actually own, in the sense that if you own less than you started with, they will hate your guts. If you own significantly more than you started with, they will you're the best leader ever.
Yeah, but why? So,
well,
because, I mean, that's how they coded it. That's fine.
Yeah, why would be an interesting question.
Yeah.
And why would almost be, why did they code it like this?
Yeah, exactly. Why did they code it?
So why did they code it like this? That's an excellent bridge, Aris, to what we're going to be doing right now. Because we're going to be talking about this game in its nitty gritty bitty old first incarnation.
Alright.
Actually not gritty at all. Actually very, very cool and technologically advanced. We're going to talk about this game as it first took shape as the Sumerian game.
Okay.
So I just pointed out earlier, there's a lot of people that have done stuff with the Sumerian game.
Mm-hmm.
So read up on that. And if you want to get this PDF, go to interactivepast.com now. And it's actually, you can find it in one of the blog posts. If you do it right now, as present person, you can do it now. Otherwise, as future past people, then you have to retroactively look, type in Hamurabi or something, and you'll find it in the search.
By the way, before we proceed to the thing, because I don't think we're talking much history from that point onwards, probably.
Well, we can, because there's all sorts of, I think we can discuss how this reflects actual history, the code that they put in there.
I just want to say that if anybody wants to have an introductory reading on the history of the ancient Near East, I would advise to check out this book, A History of the Ancient Near East, by Mark van der Meerup. This is actually the second edition of the book, I believe. There is now a third, maybe even a fourth, I don't know. But I'm pretty sure there is a third edition of the book. It's not too expensive, but, and Mark did not pay me to say this, but it is really a very well written and thorough book in what it does. So it doesn't talk about archaeology.
Hey man, this is not cool, man. This is the Gamergate for academics.
I know, right?
It is about ethics in academia. You're trying to sell us a book. And
I'm not trying to sell anybody a book. I'm just saying, just go to your local library and get this book from your local library, because it really, it would give you an insight in Near Eastern history. Or
you can watch more of our streams, because for some strange reason, we get to have one freaking stream about the Aztecs, about the region of the world that I actually know stuff about.
Yeah.
And for the rest, most of the time, we're actually doing stuff that has something to do with the ancient Near East.
Yes.
It's almost...
Or Greece, for the matter.
Or Greece. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I also have to say, you just know a lot more about a larger part of the world, I guess, than I do.
Thank you.
Maybe.
I take
I
this
don't
as
know.
a compliment.
Yes. But I can give you this compliment because you know jack shit about coding. So I'm king now, baby.
And because I brought you muffins.
And you brought me muffins, you brought me bushels, so you're my king.
Yeah, exactly.
All
Let's move this Commodore 64.
All right, let's move it a little bit. And,
so I can eat my own muffin.
So you can eat your own muffin. You can be bluffing with your muffin. All right. Well, let me actually get back to the analyzing part of this.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Is it good? All right. So, the Sumerian game.
Mm-hmm.
Hamurabi can trace its lineage. So, Hamurabi, the game, can trace its lineage to this thing called the Sumerian game. The Sumerian game was this early, basically, experiment in computing and education. It was an experiment in programmed education, programmed learning, I have to say, which was something that was very hot. Digital stuff and education was very hot.
All right.
Basically the 60s. And so actually, the Sumerian game came out of this thing that this is a report of. This is a report from 1968, in fact, or actually 67. There's a purpose of the experiment was to produce and evaluate 3 computer-based economics games as a method of individualizing instruction for grade 6 students. These are students that are about 11 to 12 years old in the American system. 26 experimental subjects, subjects meaning students, and experimental meaning they actually had fun on a computer, played 2 economic games, while control group received conventional instruction or similar material. Like, think if you're part of the control group, there's like a group of 26 people like, yes, we get to play with this cool gadget. And there's like this, yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
They probably did not know. Let's put it like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Students seated at the typewriter terminals pretended to be priest rulers in ancient Sumer. In the Sierra Leone game, another game that is made, we can talk a little bit about that, but I think we're going to skip over that for now. The student played an aid officer, basically an American development. They were trying to help this very, at that point in time, new nation of Sierra Leone to develop. That's what you play. And okay. So, basically, the results of this was that kids like to play with computers, and they actually learn from playing with computers. So this was interesting because very early on already, people said like, this is probably something we should do more often. And if you think about the fact that still nowadays we have this conversation about computers, and particularly about playing and the classroom, like being this. It's fascinating, isn't it? Anyway, they basically did this particular thing. So I want to point out that the coding language for the first 2 games was in Fortran assembly program.
All right.
So that's a way of a programming, a very old programming language. I definitely do not know it. There's very little purpose for me in knowing Fortran assembly program because basically all the machines that were running that program, they're not really functional in any sort of sense except for nostalgia purging. So basically there were with a few additional control cards for file loading purposes. So we're actually feeding in cards, these punch cards, into this machine, and that on these punch cards was the code for this game. The Sumerian game used about 15,000 lines of instruction and approximately 37,000 memory places in the time-shared TSM system. So there's this computer out there somewhere that is actually a supercomputer for the time. And there was a console somewhere else, and you could interface with it and get little parts of the computing time of the computer, and that's how you actually got to such a powerful computer at the time. You were not able to buy that sort of stuff or make it yourself.
No, it was like a room.
It was like, a very big one, and definitely something that you could not just plunk down at any sort of high school to just do an experiment with. But I wanted to point out that this original game, so the game that Hamurabi is based on, used 15,000 lines of instructions, so 15,000 lines of code. So if you very briefly switch back to Hamurabi, so this basic program, 20 years later, and if I just press a list, we'll see all the lines of code in this game run by. It's a bit.
Okay, it's not. It's barely 1,000.
It's not even 1,000 because actually you end up skipping over a lot of in between lines.
Clearly,
the way that a program like this works, we will look at this a little bit later, is that you would actually have to give every line of code its own place, and if you want to insert something in between, then you must make sure that you actually have some space to still insert stuff in between.
Okay, so you leave some empty space.
I honestly I didn't count how many lines, but definitely not anywhere close to 15,000.
Not at all.
So, first thing that we can say is that the original version of this game was much more complex than the game that most people ended up playing and knowing as Hamurabi. Okay. So this is actually interesting. In the report, there is a printout and you can actually find the report at archive.org. If you just look for the report called The Production Evaluation of Free Computer-Based Economics Games, or if you follow the link in the PDF that you can download on our site. All the way at the end of it, there's actually a printout of not the entire run, but a good part of the run. So it looks, in many ways, it does look the same as we've just been playing. Total population now, 500. Total farmland cultivation acres, 600. Total grain in inventory, bushels. So 1 season old. Hey, that's something new already. 2 seasons old. 3 seasons old. Total grain just harvested, bushels, 13,000. That's a lot more.
That's a lot more than I...
Total resources, harvest plus inventory, 13,900.
Okay.
So interestingly enough, there's nothing in the game, at least, and I can also tell you there's nothing in the code that was actually like letting you age the bushels in our stores.
All right.
Anyway, you must now decide how to use your resources. Actually, there's a lot more instruction here already. So
this is a better game.
So but to give you an impression of this would be printed out quite literally by the computer.
Yeah.
Like on a piece of paper. You would read it and you were like, okay.
But then you still would have to type in.
And then you would feed it exactly. How many bushels of grain do you wish to feed your people? So, yes, just like we did, 1,000. Interestingly, they first ask you about feeding.
Yeah. Which I think is more relevant.
Yeah, exactly. Planted for the next crop. And then, must be placed in storage. Is this all right? Do you wish to let your decision stand or to revise them? To revise them. Blah, blah. Okay.
Also, here, we do get to revise them.
Yes.
We do. Yes.
We do get to revise. There's an undo button in the original version of the game.
Yeah.
Not so much in the basic version of the game.
Wow.
All right. So basically you revise it. The steward will execute the royal commands and return in 6 months, it actually says.
Okay.
So, sir, your people don't have enough food to eat, and there are 1,300 bushels in storage. Shall we not distribute it to them? How much? So actually, it gives you this prompt, like, listen, people are gonna die.
This is not going well. This is not what you should be doing.
This is not what you should be doing.
Nice.
I am sorry to report that 140 bushels of grain have rotted or been eaten by rats this last season.
Which is also better than just rats, right? It says, some has rotten out.
Or actually have been eaten. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it gives you a little bit more depth to it.
Basically, the rest of the game runs a bit like this. And I just wanted to point out a couple of things that you may find cool or interesting. Is that, for example, there's little flavor text things happening. So, hello, before we begin, this is actually the very first introduction. Will you please type your name? You get to type your name. All of a sudden, you're a person. Now, Scott, you are ready to operate the Sumerian economic model.
All right.
Like, operate this model, Scott.
Operate the model, Scott.
Just do it.
Scott, do it, man.
Scotty is like, I don't have the power. Well, sorry, that's a bad joke. That's a bad joke. Okay, actually get this whole thing.
Yeah.
Print it out to you. Imagine that you've just been made ruler of Lagash.
Yes.
That's why I asked earlier about that. A city-state of Sumer. Is that correct?
This is very correct.
Excellent. In the year 3500 BC.
Very
Is
good.
that also correct?
That's correct. It could be a little bit later, but it's good.
Yeah. Twice yearly, your royal steward, Urbaba, maybe Urbabe, I don't exactly know.
Urbaba would be. Urbaba.
Okay, is this an actual historical figure?
I can't remember if the name Urbaba would be. It sounds correct to me, but I'm not sure if it refers to somebody specifically.
Alright, so here, the steward actually has a name. And I'm going to show you briefly one thing, actually. The steward does not have a name in Hamurabi, but he's there definitely as a presence. Because one of the things that I really like, if you do something that just cannot be done, that would break the game. For example, you want to buy -5. Hamurabi, I cannot do what you wish. Get yourself another student. So long for now. Like, bye. Done with the game. So the steward is like, F you, B. And you're just like, okay. So the steward is definitely present, but he's not called Urbaba.
No.
Alright, anyway. Your court advisor will come to you with news of your kingdom.
Alright.
We'll use the typewriter to report and ask for your decisions. So, anyway, you get this actual primer to the game.
Yeah, this is very nice.
And this is on one of the other things that's actually happening, in the game as well. You're actually called Luduga. I don't know if Luduga, that's the priest ruler of the city. So, by the way, priest rulers, was it a thing?
Yeah, sort of, yeah.
Okay.
Sort of. It fits the idea of the priest ruler, fits much more the idea they had of the Near East at that period.
Right.
So, based on what they knew, they were actually following.
They, people in the 50s,
people in the 50s, 60s are definitely on top of their Near Eastern research.
They're like, these people were like people that were ruling, particularly because they were religious specialists. That's sort of the idea in the 60s.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
We still have this idea of the priest ruler for the Near East. It's just a little bit more nuanced now. But back then, they were top.
All right. So, Luduga, any big change in population will affect your harvest because most of your people are farmers. Like, it actually tells you about your people.
Yeah, which is very nice.
And interestingly, this is the line that follows after in this particular run. I fear that the people have angered our god, Ningirsa.
Ningirsu, but that's fine.
It's an actual, Ningirsu. It's an actual god, right?
Yeah, and actually, Ningirsu is the god of the city Lagas.
Is it? Nice.
Yeah, so each city-state in the ancient Near East would have sort of a god. Babylon had Marduk, for example.
Nice.
And Ningirsu is the god of the city Lagas.
I'm so happy that you're playing this with me. No, that you're reading through this with me, but we get to experience this play together. Because, of course, I was like, there's probably this god out there. And so this is actually the god of the city. Cool. He alone could have sent that fire across the fields to destroy half of your crops.
Mm-hmm.
This is a very serious loss. I trust that you can cover it from your inventory. Pretty cool, isn't it? Like the actual writing it. Okay, then finally, here, Nessag. This is also just a little bit of information. Like Nessag's family became ill with a fever while cutting reeds in the marshlands.
That's very nice.
I am sorry to report that he and four
grown sons
have died. Yes.
That is the worst thing that could happen to a man at that period, by the way.
Having their 4 grown sons die.
Having their sons die.
Yeah.
Because that meant that they basically had the worst afterlife possible.
Right.
Because your afterlife was dependent on your sons providing you with food to eat in your grave.
All right, I remember talking to us about this.
And if they didn't, you would eat mud for eternity.
Yes. So Nessag is actually eating mud for eternity.
Both he and his sons are eating mud for eternity.
Well,
not fun.
Not fun at all. Fortunately, it is within the simulation of a 60s mainframe, so probably that mainframe has been switched off right now, and they're not actually eating mud still.
I hope so.
All right. I am sorry. So basically, fortunately, the disease did not spread, but any loss of farmers is not to be taken lightly. So think about.
We lost focus.
Oh, we lost focus. Well,
come on, refocus.
I will refocus.
Refocus us.
I will refocus us. All right. I kind of like it like this as well. Focus. Focus.
There we go.
All right. Wait, could we even be more focused? This is better, right?
Yeah, this is better. Okay.
You kind of notice the difference when your 4K webcam goes out of focus.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. So, excellent. Like actual writing in
Actual writing in there. This is very nice.
Very nice. And this is actually from the research done by Kate. What's her name now? I forgot now. Sorry, Kate. I forgot you. I have your first name, but Kate Willard. Yes. Is actually that. The person that was doing the writing for this was Mabel Addis.
Mm-hmm.
And Mabel Addis was a local elementary school teacher.
All right.
That was actually just really, really into ancient Sumeria.
Clearly.
So she was doing all sorts of stuff with history and really knew, first of all, her history, and also was a damn good writer. So it actually, Willard points out that she was the first, because these are the first really story-driven games.
Mm-hmm.
Even you can see so much more than the game that we just played.
Yeah.
That the first game story writer was Mabel Addis.
Yeah.
So absolutely very cool. Other people who were part of that the project was initiated by Bruce Moncrief. We'll get back to him in a little bit. And then William McKay was the programmer of that. I actually found a photo of William McKay as part of his unfortunate obituary, but I didn't want to put it out there. But if you were interested in these people, there's very little information on them to be found online. But there is some. Basically, there were people that were... there's actually information to be found in terms of the writing, particularly Bruce Moncrief has done a lot in terms of the engineering of early mainframe systems at IBM, which IBM nowadays is like not really on the top of most of people's minds that are not really like at the edge of computing, but they were the hardware and software.
Yeah,
exactly.
The company.
They were the Microsoft and Apple combined of their age.
Yeah.
And they are still, of course, very important. So just in terms of, you can actually see what you just said already, is that these were really formulated as math problems.
Yeah.
So let P equals the population, then delta
Mhm.
P, the change in population over one season, F, the number of bushels of grain set aside as food for one season, X, food per person in one season, then X equals F divided by P, and the ratio is given in the graph below. So here it actually will tell you, like, if people will die or not, like, and actually how happy they are with that. The next population figure would be 612. So this is literally just what it is. Like, running through this formula, and if you know the formula, then you get to do it. Of course, these kids playing it didn't know the formula, just like you also didn't.
Yeah.
And there's actually a little workflow. Start, compute random number, which was a main thing, like a major thing, the ability to compute random numbers with these computers. But actually, like, there was a Monte Carlo simulation, or Monte Carlo model under the particularly simulation of this. We lost a viewer. Under the random number generation here. So it's generate no disaster, exit to next procedure, compute another random number, and then is it going to be reduce harvest of 10%, 30%, etc. So there was a lot of things going. Locust disaster message, print God's wrath disaster message. Kind of like it. Like, these are like the different flows of the computer program.
Very nice.
Anyway.
Exit to next procedure.
Unfortunately, when it comes to the code, really, that we have of the Sumerian game.
So we don't have the 1500 left.
We don't have any, no, 15,000. We don't even have anything. Likely they're somewhere at IBM, or maybe even at the center that was also running this. This was the BOCHI, like the Educational Institute Center, like a semi-government organ. Maybe it has it, but nowhere to be found. And people have looked, believe you me, along with the people that I just listed above. But we still have some other information. For example, this is from Moncrief's paper that he wrote about this in 1965, and actually got this from Tobias Wienerling, who shared this paper with me. So thanks, Tobias. The idea of constructing a computer model of the ancient Sumerian civilization, which could be used for teaching basic economics, drew its inspiration from many sources. So the inspiration came from Rousseau's Emile, about how you should educate a young person, Emile in this case. Dewey's emphasis on the problematic situation.
A paper entitled Teaching Through Participation in Microsimulations of Social Organizations by Richard Meyer.
So probably we can still find this paper. I didn't try and find this yet. I didn't want to get too deep into this. And in the first chapter of Harrison Brown's, I also want to read this book, The Challenge of the Future,
in which he discusses the origin of civilization in the Near East River valleys. A luncheon conversation with sociologist James Coleman. That's very interesting that they use this challenge of the future as a book where they discuss, I'm guessing, the origins of civilization as a point of trying to not predict, but to understand the future of humanity.
I think this is a book that you need to...
probably a book that I need to check out,
Yes, for sure. Yeah. I haven't read it, haven't looked for it either.
But there are actually plenty of books also, like recent books that deal with the same issue.
Yeah, exactly. It's in that sense, as you already said in the beginning, it's this period. It's clearly so... There's so much stuff happening that seems like it has something to say about today that, of course this has been done. So it would be cool to just see this particular thing. So there's another thing that he says here. The immediate reason for the choice of the Sumerians was to protest. I like this. This video game is actually a radical and like an activist video game against the growing tendency in school curricula to ignore the pre-Greek, that's you, civilizations.
That's actually very good for that, and very actually it was kind of a statement, I guess, for that period.
I think it probably was. I
even for today it would sort of be a statement. Yeah,
because we have the classical. Classicists, we love you, but you need to come up with a different name for your whole discipline.
First of all, yes, but also in like modern Greek schools, you only have part of a book in one of your years that deal with non-Greek civilizations, for example. Yeah. And the same holds true for Italy to some extent, that they mainly learn about the Greeks and the Romans.
Same for me in my high school, like weeks on the Greeks.
Yeah, weeks on the Greeks.
Weeks on the Greeks. Not years on the Greeks. I mean, in ancient Greek, like the language, yes, of course, but in history, weeks on the Greeks. There's maybe like one or two lessons about early city-states like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Basically nothing until the fifth
Yeah.
class about Mesoamerica, for example.
And also it says here, in spite of the growing weight of scholarly evidence as to the important role which the prehistory and early history should play in our understanding of the process by which our society has come to be what it is, which today, this is not a growing body of evidence anymore. This is, we have it. Like
We
it's
have
there.
it.
And of course, if you ask the scholars themselves, they would tell you that it's the Near East where we have like the birth of civilization, so to speak.
Yeah.
We have this model, this idea of the ex-Oriental lux that was not present necessarily back then, meaning the light from the East.
But it was present already because, of course, ex-Oriental lux is...
Yeah, so it's an idea that we already had significantly earlier with Gordon Child's research.
Exactly. And who do we get here? Child and others have identified the development of settled farming as a necessary forerunner of urban civilized social organization.
Yes.
So this dude also, Moncrief, also knew his business. Or at least
Absolutely.
not his business, because it's not his business.
No, he knew the archaeologist business.
Yes, exactly. Which is kind of cool.
It is very
in
cool.
a way, so this is a game developer, like an early game developer, that in fact understands that he needs to know a lot about the past that he's going to play with in order to make something happen.
To juxtapose this, maybe it's an unfair comparison, but to juxtapose this with the first civilization, which came to be a little bit through encyclopedias, this is much more in depth. This is not... Here we're not talking about a guy who's like, oh, I'm going to read some encyclopedias on the early past. No, this person is clearly familiar with research that was under development during this time. Yeah. Of course, Child wrote his stuff in the 1910s, 1920s.
1930s.
And 1930s, yeah. Mm-hmm. So that means they were already at least 30 or maybe 40 years old by that time. But still, it's not a name that you would come across just
that, exactly. You have to have looked for it.
And it's also important to note, maybe nowadays it's not as important, but Child was very much a Marxist archaeologist.
Later on he was, yes. From the 30s on.
Yes. So, being a Marxist archaeologist, depending on where you were coming from in the world, this could have some gravity.
Especially in the...
especially in the US.
In the 60s in the US. Yes. End of the 50s US. Yes.
So, this is also worth noting.
So, this transformation first occurred in lasting form in the river valleys of Mesopotamia, Egypt and India. Yeah. It is ironic that a scholarship was discovering the importance of understanding these technological, economic and social revolutions. School authorities were dropping the topic from the social studies curriculum.
Yes.
I like this. So there's clearly like an actual idea behind the fact, behind the mechanics that will then, there's aesthetics behind the mechanics. Exactly as you just said at the beginning of the stream.
Yeah.
There's aesthetics behind the mechanics here. Absolutely fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
I like this. As usual, the objectives of the project were developed as we went along.
Of course.
This is like...
I mean...
I want to just highlight this and put this in... make
a poster out of it.
Yes, as usual, the objectives of the project were developed as we went along.
This should be the tagline for our Minecraft project.
Yes.
Well... We developed it as we went along.
Exactly, as usual.
As usual, yeah.
And apparently in the 60s, because this guy is actually reporting, like talking in a scholarly journal, as well as talking towards Grant.
Yeah.
People that were... This was okay to say in the 60s. Yeah. If you say this now in the 60s, it's like as usual, dear NWO, Dutch Science Foundation, the objectives of our project will be developed as we're going along. Give me some money.
Do we have a research statement? No. No, we don't know.
No, we just think it's important because it's not being done in schools, and we're gonna do it. So the major problem facing the investigators was to refrain from importing market structures and price mechanisms into the model of the Sumerian economy.
Mm-hmm.
It seems likely that prices or rates of exchange were set by the holders of religious and political power and maintained by custom. This has been described as a prescriptive economy rather than a market economy. But it's so fascinating to me because this actually, you actually talked about formalist and substantivist economies earlier on.
I didn't, I talked about it to you before the stream, but this...
Oh, you're going to talk about it in a couple of weeks.
But I talked about it in my class.
In your class, yes, exactly.
In my class, yeah.
So, this is an example of a guy that's kind of towards the substantivist
very clear
view of the economy. And
so Finlay's idea of like pre-market economies that actually... So, just to describe very briefly what's the argument here, is there was this school of thought that said pre-market economies, or ancient economies, were not based on rational actors that act always in the interest of profit.
Rational as understood by market economies.
Yeah, exactly. That act in the interest of profit.
Yeah.
And maximizing gains, this min-max idea. But rather, the economies was embedded directly into society, and they would be based on need rather than concepts like supply and demand.
Yeah.
Which, as we discussed earlier, actually doesn't seem to hold up. Especially, maybe for Sumeria it holds up a little bit more, but definitely for the period of Hammurabi, so early 2nd millennium BC, it doesn't hold up. There were market forces, yes. Of course, political power holders and religious power holders had a higher degree of influence on the economy because they could have a stronger hold on specific, like.
One of the things they could do is they could simply forgive the debt.
Yeah, exactly.
So they were the people with the money to actually, stay afloat.
So these kind of things were present, and this would. That's why I said earlier semi-capitalistic, in the sense that we do see concepts like supply and demand, interest in profit, interest in collecting wealth, prestigious objects that would make somebody's status higher and stuff like that. But at the same time, we have powers that we don't have now in a modern market economy, like states not being the ones regulating the wealth, but actually having a completely free market economy. These type of ideas were, of course, not there. Governments or the ruler or the priest would have a say in spending significantly more than they would have now.
Exactly. So, pretty cool. Anyway, Thal is going into this. And then I also really love this because this is... So, I tend to love intellectuals from this area anyway in the way that they approach problems, because it's this very broad take on it.
Yeah.
So it's not like this mega academic specialist just thinking and tinkering about this small thing. No, it's like, this is the overview, and I like to think of myself as somebody that also tries to not get bogged down in like super minor details. We obviously are, because we're talking about this shit for too long already.
Oh yeah.
But to try and have a broader scope. You also need specialists, but this is clearly somebody writing not about this is the computer, this is what it does. No, there's somebody that thinks about this thing much broader. So the second content problem was that of portraying the processes of economic and social development to avoid the easier but unsatisfactory antiquarian approach. So this is somebody in the 60s writing something that most archaeologists in the 60s, or maybe sometimes even today, are not entirely convinced of. Like, you don't want to just collect stuff and write cultural histories, basically. No, listen, we want to do something else. It takes more than a set of maps, kings' names, customs, and potsherds to build a socio-economic model of a civilization.
Absolutely great quote right there.
Yes.
I love this quote.
It would, of course, be a falsification not to present the model to the student in terms of Sumerian artifacts, but material about the artifacts just is not enough. There must also be a model which includes the function relationship between the major economic and social variables. I think this is pretty cool. This is the thinking that went into the game that very much inspired the game that we ended up playing.
Yeah.
And we cannot play this game anymore because, unfortunately, it's gone.
It's gone. It's not there.
I want to talk a little bit still about this in terms of what it would have looked like. So what we can sort of reconstruct of the dynamics and aesthetics. This is an image actually by Tobias Wienerling. This is basically what would have happened. There would have been a data phone connecting to this IBM 1790 mainframe. And this is where students would have been typing and also receiving their instructions from an IBM 1050 terminal. And then there was this audio tape, Tonband. This is a German model. So of course originally it was like an audio tape.
Yeah.
It's actually playing, and a dia, like a projector, slide projector, that was also playing at the same time as instructions would have been gained. So that actually in a promotional image, or a little bit of a promotional image, this is what it looked like. We would have this schoolgirl sitting over here, typing, reading. Here you can actually see the data phone over here.
And what would you do on the data phone? Nothing.
The data phone would be nothing yourself. You operate the person that would be overseeing the experiment who's used that data phone to call into to make a connection with that mainframe that was actually doing all the calculations. And we don't see the audio tape, or we don't even let alone hear it. But this is a dia, like a slide that was actually shown to the student as they were getting instructions.
This is very interesting.
Very interesting. So let's have a little look at. There's a couple more images of slides that they were actually looking at. All found. I think there's probably more images like this. I all got this through the research of the other people that have been doing this. This is actually somebody that's. What is he? What's this? A picture from nowadays Africa, I think, and I'm not entirely sure it is connected.
It doesn't seem to be relevant at all. It seems like somebody inside water.
Mining.
Yeah, probably sieving soil, maybe. So I don't know what this is.
I actually think that because this has been placed with the Sumer game, the Sumerian game, I actually think this is a game, an image from the Sierra Leone game.
That could be.
I think so.
That could be.
Could be, but I could be wrong. But
that could be.
This to me
because it has nothing to do probably with the.
No, because in the Sierra Leone game, and it's not only because this is obviously a black person, an African person, well, likely an African person doing this, but it's also because in the Sierra Leone game, what I understand, you can actually mine, you can actually strip mine parts of your land. So it's that. I'm thinking that. Anyway, I wanted to toss it out to you, but in particular, I wanted to have a small close look at least as one of the promotional images that we actually get from, in this case, from Willard's article, but that's actually from that. So this actually shows, I think, a ziggurat?
Maybe.
Right?
That's I guess so.
And so, one bit of information, there's actually photographs made from a maquette that have been built. I could look up the name, it's in one of the documents, but that has been built specifically for this purpose. So this is like, you can see palm trees. I always like that. Then you know you're in the Middle East when there's palm trees around. and something that looks like a ziggurat, right?
I mean, I guess. It doesn't look like a ziggurat to me. The next step, I'm not sure if it's just accidental.
I think this is a ziggurat, man. I think it needs to go into your paper.
Maybe.
I think it needs to.
Okay.
You're writing a paper about.
I'm writing a paper about ziggurats
in video games. And then there's people here just doing their thing. I think it's
these houses are very interesting, by the way.
Are they interesting? Okay, I would not. To me, they look like huts, but okay, to you, they're interesting.
Yeah, because you would not expect necessarily this type of these look like peasant houses, like everything.
Yeah, the houses of your people, obviously.
Yeah, and you would not expect them.
I think that you're like over here, over here.
You would not expect them in such close proximity to the ziggurat. Right. You needed some distance.
you needed some distance.
The animals. I don't know. And also the way they're constructed, they seem to me a little bit like Flintstone houses.
Yes.
Which probably was not the case. I do like that they are plastered white. I'm guessing they are plastered. That they are plastered white. That might have been indeed the case.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not exactly sure. They also look very small, and it seems like people are putting their animals in, which is not necessarily incorrect. But the houses themselves seem to be very small.
Right. So,
okay, let's go on.
Well, we don't really know, aside from that, in terms of audio, we know that you had counselors arguing with each other, for example.
Oh, nice.
So, interesting thing is, this would take a long time. This would take like a couple of minutes.
This would not take 10 minutes to play.
As Willard says in her article, like, this is, well, but also these things, they were unskippable cutscenes.
Oh, yes.
Very
nice.
Interesting. So, cool. All right. This is a bit about educational reform. I think we already sort of covered that, but it's just to show you that basically some of the conclusions were like, well, you know what? There's going to be people that are going to be doing this for a living, basically.
Yeah.
They were presaging the digital humanist or human digitalist movement. They also asked these students questions about their experience. They actually make them take tests about economy and see how well they did on that. But they also asked them about their experience, so the aesthetics of it. Would you like to have the computer for a teacher all day long? Half a day? Not at all. 4 of these people that were interviewed, so actually there's fewer than 26 giving answers here, but 4 of these people that were interviewed said, give me the computer all day long. Just leave it at that.
4 of them were basically us.
Yes. And then 9 said, let's do half a day. And then there was one like, no, I like human beings. I just give me my teacher back.
This future didn't seem to be for you, my friend.
Yeah. And then they also asked these questions. I think that you can just read, like, they wanted to get at what these kids were feeling, but this is like a weird way of asking a survey question. Were you excited or scared the first day that you were to run on the computer? Like, there's a bunch of kids, like 11, 12. They're
Yeah,
like,
of course they're gonna get
yeah,
excited.
of course. And two were scared. Oh, and two were both excited.
And
I think
again, there is one who was probably not interested at all. He's like, yeah, no.
I don't care, man.
I'm guessing that they're scared, or both were the 4 that wanted the computer. Maybe 4 of them would be.
These were actually people that wanted them all day in the end.
Yeah, maybe.
We don't know
That
how
would be
they-
very interesting.
Yeah, it would have been very interesting. Yeah, it convinced me.
And then the not at all is like, I don't care.
All right, so this is also something that I like as well. Is there anything about the course that you specifically like? So we actually talked about courses. If so, what? Machine error, bugs. I guess if
Bugs.
you ask my digital humanities students nowadays, like, they're going to answer the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, bugs. Too long, boring. 3 refers specifically to Sumer. Sumer too repetitious. Sumer forces right answer to discussion. So you can sort of see that probably there was a lot of railroading going on in this game.
Yeah, clearly.
And
Maybe it was too guided.
too guided. Not interactive enough.
Yeah.
In contrast to what I would say is what Hamurabi ended up being.
Yeah.
So, which game did you like the best and why? 8 liked Sumer best over Sierra Leone. 5 of the 8 that liked Sumer best also indicated that they were tired or bored by Sumer.
But they still like it best.
Yeah, they still liked it best. And interesting, we
Because-
like there's people
it's interesting. It says Sumer more interesting because it
that
had
taken place. The kingly thing to do. Master of game. I don't know what it means.
Yeah.
Dying population. I also don't want to know what that means. Knew better as game went on. What
That's
was
very
more to do,
interesting.
had to think harder. Liked special messages.
Oh, nice.
So at least this way you get into the experience of the whole thing.
I'm guessing that if you would do like a civilization survey or something like that, you would get very similar responses.
Probably, yes. I would think so. And I mean, that's sort of giving the game away. Huh? But of course, this is very much, this game, Hamurabi, and therefore also the Sumerian game much earlier, are very much at the roots of a good part what civilization is about. So, if you played another computer game, what subject would you like it to be on? Remember that this is supposed to be an economics game. 5 of them say science, goody two shoes. 2 of them say English. 5 of them say history.
Bam!
Bam! Like, give us games about the past, people.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. And in fact, I like it even better because these kids grew up to be the developers of Assassin's Creed, as you can see. Because they say, like, you know what games we need? We need a game about the
Middle Ages.
And we need a game about Italy long ago.
Yeah, clearly the developers of Assassin's Creed.
So,
Very nice.
anyway, just to point out, Brilliant Kids, 11 to 12 in 1966.
65.
65 plus now.
Yeah.
Probably
I
some of
wonder
them
if
are
there's-
still alive.
I
And
wonder how many of these kids would still play games.
I wonder too. That
would be
I
amazing.
want to talk to these people now.
Yeah.
And like do the survey again and laugh with
Yeah.
them about it. All right. Anyway, so that's for the Sumerian game. So I'm gonna probably what we're gonna be doing. We're gonna maybe I'm thinking now wrap up the historical overview of where this game got to, and maybe next stream we can talk about the code base for a bit more.
It depends on what we want to do. If we want to keep
Yeah.
because
otherwise-
that would mean next stream we don't.
Do anything else?
We just stop. We don't play.
No, yeah, well, we can still play. Well, we can think about it later. But
Alright.
I mean, it's already 5:10. We're gonna go a bit over.
All right.
We can, otherwise I'll just point out some interesting things about the
Yes.
code base. So, sorry, John. Very little code. Most of us just chatting about.
Yeah.
But well, anyway, doesn't matter. So actually, aside from this game being played by students, there were actually during the first year of the grant, approximately 1,000 people have visited the center. So that's Bocce's, that's that particular center where this game was set up, to see demonstrations of the computer-based economics games and the uses of other complex media.
Okay.
This game was also played by a lot more people.
Yeah.
And I guess, so actually this is from an interview that Willard did with Doc Diamond, important for the next iteration of this game.
Mm-hmm.
He said that after giving a talk at a university in Alberta, a grad student described to him a program called the Sumerian game. This grad student that saw this talk by Doc Diamond was a software support manager at Digital Equipment Corporation, an early, like a computer, a hardware manufacturer as well as a software, mostly the same thing at the time. Describes the program to this person, to Doc Diamond. And it could be the case that Doc Diamond has only heard about it and has never actually seen the Sumerian game in action himself, or he hasn't even looked at the code or whatever, but would make a good demonstration program. So he wrote a game titled King of Sumeria.
All right.
So that's where this thing is going to go from, actually, this is where we have the actual code. Well, not this case, we don't have the actual code from. Well, we do have a bit of code from it, I think. It actually was written for this computer system, the PDP-8, the programmable data processor.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly, they didn't call it a computer because people thought of computers as super expensive and large and etc. So that now we recognize these as mini computers.
Yeah.
This thing had a memory for about 4K words.
Whoa.
So that's not many words at all.
That is not,
And these sorts of constraints, this is actually where you get into the retro game archaeology part of it, definitely constrained the design of the game that we end up playing now.
Yeah.
So a machine with a memory for about 4K words would never have been able to fit those 15,000 lines
No, exactly.
in any sort of comfortable fashion that was actually possible in this early mainframe.
Yeah.
Or not the early mainframe, but this mainframe.
Mm-hmm.
So it actually lists in a catalog from 1969, this is.
Mm-hmm.
She lists that not as the King of Sumer, but as the Sumer game, written by Doc Diamond.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a simulation program / game which will run on a minimal PDP-8 system. So you could actually expand the system, minimal one. The economy of a Sumerian city in the year 3000 BC.
Very nice.
It's still 3000 BC, it's still a Sumerian city.
Yeah.
It's simulated in the fashion of a modern day business game.
Mm-hmm.
So actually what you think about now is actually an economics game still or again or whatever. It's based on a business game.
Yeah.
And I think actually this is, unfortunately I don't remember where I found this online, but I think this is actually the code of that. We're not going to look at this because it's written in a language called Focal, which I don't really know that much about.
Mm-hmm.
But you can see that it does has sort of the same sort of things that are happening in the game. I back to report that last year, died of starvation.
Same.
People came to the city.
Yeah, how many
population is now? But
acres of land, all sorts of exclamation marks.
Yeah.
Puzzles in store. Yeah.
Exactly. So at least in terms of the strings, the text, it was very much the same.
Yeah.
And probably if you analyze this, I'm gonna guess that lots of the mechanics are also the same. We could. I could do this later, but whatever. You now have no grain left in store, so you have none left to use as seed this year. They actually tell you that. That's nice.
Yeah.
So it's also all not there. Interestingly, here we see Hamurabi, written the wrong way.
Yeah.
The reason for that, actually, Doc Diamond says, is he needed to get to those 4K words. He needed to squeeze as much into like a small space as possible. So he decided to just drop the M, because people would still read it the same way. And he said,
would that one letter make such big of a difference?
Well, that's for something to. I wonder if probably John Aycock is not around anymore because probably he's teaching already. But I'm wondering about that. So there's another reason for this. Mm-hmm. So these are actually Hammurabi is actually 8 letters.
Yeah.
And Hammurabi with the double M is 9 letters.
Yeah.
So later on, there's actually a DOS file format request that says, if you want to name your file anything, it cannot be longer than 8 letters.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another reason to call it Hammurabi later. But according to Doc Diamond himself, who wrote this thing, he said, I had to just squeeze.
I wonder, but there are other words that are 9 letters. There's the word distribute, that's 9 letters, right? And that fits.
Yeah, it's not about it doesn't fitting. It's about the total amount of letters in there.
Yeah.
Which you needed to reduce somehow and distribute. Yeah. If you write that wrong,
really
it's wrong.
Yeah.
Everybody can recognize that.
Yeah.
But Hammurabi is not a word that many people knew how to write orthographically.
No.
So he said, probably I guess that's the reasoning here, that we just skip a letter here.
How about he would cut down on some of the exclamation marks and then you would have made it.
Yes. Well, interestingly, that's not actually what's happening here.
No, the double exclamation marks here are coding,
actual coding. Yeah. So this is actually he's cutting down on he has to do one.
The colon next to Hammurabi. Hammurabi has gone on strike. You will have to stop and find yourself another steward.
There you go.
There we go.
So there Hammurabi has gone on strike. So in this iteration of the game,
Hammurabi is
the steward. So I don't want to call out Doc Diamond because he still is probably an amazing person and a super good engineer. But he did not know his history, I'm saying.
Maybe he thought since I cannot spell it properly, I'll just make him a steward. And he's not the king. He's not the same person.
Oh, right. There was an actual king called Hamurabi.
There was
double
a king
M?
with double M, but this is not
This is
him.
the steward. This is
Exactly.
Hamurabi. Maybe that's it.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that is all along. And I've been talking about Hamurabi for absolutely no reason.
Yes, maybe that's it. Anyway, so that's interesting, right? So Hamurabi is the steward. All right. So there's lots of little things that you can see already. You can find in these little codes. So then there's a description about this. This was actually played on another high school, the Lexington High School, which was close to the IBM building. And they had these, or I think close to the DEC building in Maryland. Sorry, no IBM, the Digital Equipment Corporation. So they actually had the PDP on site. And they actually have a lot of the early games talked about are sort of pioneered at this Lexington High School.
All right.
Very cool. And actually it talks about, like, here, this is how you, kid, can run this thing.
In this case, I want to point out just that it is again on 3000 BC. Huh?
Yes, for
specifically, somewhere in the year 3000 BC.
Yeah, yeah.
Again, of course, the Hammurabi with...
Hammurabi makes a report and asks for a decision.
So, the question is, who are we? And also it says, in the city of Sumer.
Not Lagash anymore.
Not Lagash, but there is no city of...
There is no city. You're like, you're all disappointed. Like, in the city of what? Sumer?
Yeah.
yeah, he's like, yeah.
It went from this brilliant historical game with all like these amazing details to
the city of Sumer. It actually tells you each person needs 20 bushels of food of grain per year as food.
Well, so we figured it out, but it's an important parameter to have in your first year.
In your first year.
Shit.
This is the amount that people are actually eating.
Yeah.
And you know what? We can actually probably I'll do this right now.
Oh, do you want to do a calculation right now?
Let's do the calculation right now.
The calculation I want to do first. I want to set a parameter right here, right now. Let's bring up not ourselves, right? But let's type in. Bam! There are way too many keyboards on this. So I talked about ratios earlier, and the ratios in Assyria would be given in the Pefel trim bowls. These were standardized bowls. Some people have claimed that they are made on the basis of molds, but it is not necessarily clear. It might be the case that some were made in molds and some not, but this is the Pefel trim bowl. And what would happen is that you would be paid in ratios of width the size of a Bevel trim bowl.
Okay.
In fact, in early pictographic scripts, the pictograph for food was a Bevel trim bowl.
Nice.
The pictograph for a face was, well, a face. And the pictograph for eating was a Bevel trim bowl attached to a face.
Nice. That's good.
And then this was developed in the cuneiform word for food based on these two pictographs combined together, which is very interesting.
Nice.
So let's see if it has, because I can't remember from the top of my head, how much did it
contain?
I don't think it's...
It's probably not going to say in here.
No, but it says it's base usually 9
centimeters. It's going to be a bit... approximately 18 centimeters. You could calculate this.
Bevel trim bowls.
Volume? What do you want to go for?
I guess so.
There's a whole paper about this?
Of course there is a whole paper about this, but I'm not sure if we can
find it.
And let's see.
Okay, so what I will tell you...
Yes, tell me.
That the interesting fact that the people eat 20 bushels in Hammurabi, or focal, is actually also the case in basic.
Okay.
I can actually try and bring this up right now. Let me actually find that. At 411. So list. Whoops. Let me actually. There are too many keyboards here. All right. List 4011.
Yeah.
Input queue. Now let me actually just list a little bit more. 400 to 420. Okay. This is actually where it asks you about how many bushes do you wish to feed your people. So this is the actual code of that.
Mm-hmm.
Input Q. So that's actually asking for your input. So it's going to take that input, whatever you type. Then if Q is less than 0, then, they're going to be very upset with you.
Yeah.
And then, actually need to go a little bit more here. 400 to, you find the volume of the bowls.
If it's there, I can't remember if it's in there.
So, wait, this is not here in this part of the thing. No, it is not. Actually, it's, where is it then?
Where are you? We, as the quote said, we make things up as we go.
We definitely
as
do.
Always.
Yes,
as
for
always.
Sure. For sure. Oh, actually, it's a bit later on. It's list 540. Oops. Yes.
Too many keyboards.
Too many keyboards.
All
right. Let me actually have a go here. List of 540 to. Well, let's go for 600. So. There we go.
Here.
It is actually up here in the actual code.
Mm-hmm.
So C is the integer of Q, and we just actually said it at input was Q, right? Remember?
Yeah.
Divided by 20.
All right.
So that's actually C, and then C is used over here. Over here. If actually the population is less than that, then just continue because you fed enough. Than the actual amount that you set there, and or if not, then they're gonna see if you starved enough people to be impeached. Then if the amount of deaths, which is the populations minus the people that actually are fed, is actually less than 0.45, less than 0.45%.
Yeah,
then you're
then it prints you starved X amount or the amount of people.
Yes, exactly.
In 1 year.
Yeah, so it's like if you starve more than 45 people, 45% of your people in a year, you're gonna get impeached right away.
Nice.
So that's how that works.
Very nice.
So this is actually it in the code base. So what does that mean then? That in fact people were eating quite a bit.
Yeah, they were eating a lot.
20 bushels.
20 bushels, which we said are 35 liters.
20 bushels in US size. I'm gonna guess that's what they meant when they made this game is 704 basically 705 liters. A typical bathtub holds 80 liters. One person would eat almost 9 bathtubs of food per year, of wheat per year. All right. This is knowledge that I don't have about wheat, but apparently, according to wheatfacts.com, from the National Wheat Festival,
right.
There's not weed, but wheat. Wheat. 1 bushel makes about 90 loaves of bread.
All right.
Meaning one Hamurabi person consumed 1,800 loaves of bread per year.
That is more than an average Dutch person eats in bread.
Well, I will tell you how much it in fact is, because if we go by modern standards, a loaf of whole wheat bread is 1,100 calories.
Yeah.
Even round it down, we could even round this down to 800 calories. It doesn't really matter. So, 1,800 loaves means that it's, 1,980,000 calories per year. A Hamurabi person, so the game person, consumed 5,424 calories per day. To put it in perspective, a regular man person needs 2,500 calories per day. A woman tends to need about 2,000. These people were extremely well fed in Hamurabi.
That is goes beyond well fed. Well fed is somebody who is well fed and healthy.
Yes.
These people, if they would eat so much, not healthy.
Not healthy at all. They would, just be morbidly obese.
Yes.
All of them. I wonder how they. And then they would die.
Not starve. No. They would die of obesity.
So first of all, I don't think this means that people that made this game actually thought that people ate quite that much in the past.
Mm-hmm.
This is, to me, an example of where we think we have game economics that make sense, in the sense of people can game out this system. Like, oh, it's actually 20 bushels.
Yeah.
But that make no sort of real world simulationist sense at all.
No, not at all.
And in that, just by this simple fact that the amount of food that people were consuming just would have made them all more morbidly obese, it destroys the whole thing that this is an economic simulator or a business simulator. Because, it's not a business simulator if it has no actual relation to what's happening in any sort of real world.
It's just a math problem.
It's a math problem, exactly.
Which is fine.
Which is absolutely fine. Math problems are cool. Not if you ask me 15 years ago, because 20 years ago. But now they're pretty cool and they're very much part of games.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you can see how actually here, thinking about it from a more historical point of view, which probably I'm going to think if you do the same thing with the Sumerian game, that'd be much more realistic. Maybe they even have the actual beveled rim balls in there as it could be crazy. So that shows you how here is this. We want to have this game that works just on a system level, on a dynamic level, but the aesthetics of that in terms of realism don't make any sense, and therefore also the mechanics actually don't make any sense. So I think it's pretty cool little thing to highlight. And with that, we actually got to some code things as well. And
Absolutely.
I think let me just briefly still run through the rest of the story of Hamurabi. Boom! It just pops up. This is where we get it as this popular game.
Yeah, basic computer games.
Basic computer games is the cover from 1973. Not online anywhere, but there is 1975 edition. Hamurabi. Here we have
they had to cut down more letters.
They're clearly okay, this is it. Hamurabi. This is actually, as it actually says on the cover, basic computer games. So games written in a basic language.
I wonder if they had cut down all the vowels, if people would still call it Hamurabi. This is a very interesting, no, because clearly people would realize, this is Hamurabi, right?
Yeah, true.
I find it very interesting from a linguist point of view.
I honestly don't know why they went with Hamurabi for this iteration of the game in 1973.
Also, what is that person doing? This is not a Sumerian person.
No, I absolutely love the little. And this whole game is filled with lots of bad jokes from. We could do an endless amount of streams just on basic games alone. There's so much madness in them, but also a lot of brilliance because these were a time that people, for the first time, were themselves having access to computers, if you were very rich still or very much gadget focused, you were starting to get access to computers. Yeah. And even later in 1978, people were getting much more access to computers. So, and actually, that's also where it gets interesting. So one of the things I'll just point out, which I don't understand at all, a little bit of a historical fact still. This is translated from the original Focal program, which we just discussed, which has been floating around digital for 9. So that's the Digital Equipment Corporation, where this game was actually sort of put into its moderner incarnation for 9 or more years, which is kind of strange because this is 1975.
Yeah,
9 or more years is 1966.
Yeah,
that could not be correct because in 1966 this game was still the Sumerian game as it was played at IBM and Bocce. So this is not correct. And actually, Al, who knew this was floating around, didn't know who the original programmer was of the Focal game. So he didn't know Duke Diamond.
Yeah.
It was actually misattributed to another person for a long time.
Oh, wow.
That was, I think, found and conclusively proven by Devin Monnes, who I think wrote a paper on that I desperately want to read, but haven't yet. Anyway, so weird.
Yeah.
So then we get to sort of how this game sort of changed over the years. And especially now, because we refer to it as the first historical game. This is Moncrief again. The educational objectives cluster around 2 main themes. So that's I'm talking about the Sumerian game. An understanding of the processes at work in a developing civilization. The ability to make decisions regarding multi-factored situations taking account of several conflicting values or goals. So Moncrief was definitely interested in history.
Yeah, clearly.
And somehow this got very much pitched to some sort of education board, some granting agency as economics games.
Yeah.
Because these were 3. Remember in the reports, 3 economics games.
Yeah.
I wonder if that was part of just getting the money in. And I wonder also if there was, we don't know, we simply do not know. If this switch was also because, history is kind of for communists and then economics is for true American capitalists. I wonder if there's something in there, at least in the pitching of it, that we switch from
Yeah,
We want to
be able
people.
to read in something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. Then, of course, it actually in the Deckers catalog that we just looked at, it talks about it as a business game. Now it has clearly become a business game.
But it also says the economy of Sumerian city in the year 3000 BC is simulated in the fashion of a modern day business game, so it still realizes that probably the Sumerian city would not be like that.
Exactly.
So we are using a setting, but then we are sort of modernizing the mechanics.
And this, to me, sort of reminds me a lot of what we've been talking about when it comes to civilization.
Mm-hmm.
That is not very much about how the past actually, our societies in the past actually worked.
No.
It's about how we work today, and therefore we think that history has unfolded towards us. Yeah. So this is really what it's. But then I think it's interesting that in the Games for Basic, it actually talks about families of games, different as a different sort of categorization of the games that are in that book. And actually, it's this game Hamurabi is under land management, government, and history with a couple of other games that I've checked out, and we could even check that out if you like.
Civil War,
particular Fur Trader, Hamurabi King, which is very much inspired on Hamurabi.
Yeah,
but you are the ruler of a communist island.
How are you? Anyway. What?
Don't worry.
How are you a king?
Then stock exchange, I guess. I don't entirely know. And then in the 1978 version, it is actually referenced as educational. With, by the way,
double M.
Double M.
We got there.
We got to the double M. We got to basic computer games. And we got to this actual thing that we ended up playing it on.
We've been using for today's stream.
So to the thing that this
the
microcomputer.
Yeah.
And to basic and to a lot of code that we're not gonna have any time to think about, I guess, or do much with, I guess. But let me just leave it here that there's a lot of interesting things going on here. So aside from the one about the calories. Let me just sort of list general ones here. So, I think it's interesting, as I already put out there, that we see over here in 900, and actually, you know what we could do? We could just show this actually in the basic game ourselves, why not? So, a list, whoops, let me actually go back a little bit, whoops. List, so from 900 to the end, I think it will, whoops, list 900 to the end, I think it will make it. Yeah. These are the different end states.
Yeah.
So what you see here is actually, if you do the best, oh, actually made a typo there, performance, that's not in the actual book, that is me just mistyping. I did do mistypings. Fantastic performance. Charlemagne, Disraeli, and Jefferson combined could not have done better.
What?
So these are to David Owl, I think, or actually maybe this was Doc Diamond.
Yeah.
These were great leaders.
Yeah, clearly.
Charlemagne, we can talk about that. It's called Charles the Great for a reason, I guess, in our history books.
Yeah.
But he was also kind of an asshole, I think, that murdered a lot of people.
I think all the kings who are described as greats are actually assholes.
Yeah. I don't want to call out any sort of Americans saying like Jefferson, one of their founding fathers, is an asshole, but he did own slaves. He did actually displace a lot of Indians.
He was not the greatest guy.
He was not, exactly. And Disraeli, well, he was one of the people that we are sort of forgetting now, but he was a very important figure of state in England in a very formative period of, Great Britain, basically, the end of the 19th century, early 19th century, 20th century. These are the great people for them. And then at line 940, your heavy-handed performance smacks of Nero and Ivan IV.
Oof.
Nero, of course, we all know as the Mad Emperor.
Burning Rome.
It's one of those people that, I'm not saying that he has been sort of said like, oh yeah, he's actually great, but he's probably gotten a bad rap through a particular historical perspective.
Yeah.
And the thing with Ivan IV is we know him in the West as Ivan the Terrible. But in Russia today, as well as back then, by the way,
he was not that terrible.
He was even the Great for a lot of people, even the Magnificent, because you're actually like, he took care of the after that.
Yeah.
The Russian medieval state sort of ended up crumbling, but he was actually trying to take charge. So a lot of people were like, yes, this is a strong ruler.
You made another typo.
Oh, could be the case. Where?
In ruler.
This was actually typed at like 1 a.m. in the morning when I was like, oh shit, I actually have to do the end of this game. But so yes. And it's actually kind of annoying to fix your typos. I could do it, sure, but not for now. And then of course there is another thing here. The people remaining find you an unpleasant ruler and frankly hate your guts. This is the second worst, so basically the third best one. And then you confirm this one, the one you got, but you will be assassinated. But we all have our trivial problems. Yeah. So these are 4 end states. So to me, it actually seems like, particularly the comparison with rulers, is something that also happens still to this day at the end of every civilization game.
Of course.
So that's definitely there as a thing. Let me pick out maybe one more fact. I really love the. Okay, so one interesting thing here, and I'll probably just switch back to the actual as it was written, the code. There's a very important chance sort of calculation. And it's very much the same. It's in 800. Actually, right over here. This. Oops, let me actually just highlight it. So, C is. So, C actually sort of. Probably. The problem with variables in BASIC is, or at least in these games, you don't really know what they stand for. Because nowadays we use much more descriptive variables when we program. But they didn't do that back then. No, to save space. One of the things. So, the random. A random number, a random float, so a decimal number between 0.0 and 1, so not 1 itself, but 0.999, times 5, and then actually plus 1. So that means that, and actually I could probably bring this up real quick. This actually is something that happens over here. So actually you have this go sub, which means go to this subroutine. So normally, of course, a program reads like this, like starts up there. Well, not normally, but for basic programs, reads up here, starts reading. But every time it encounters go sub, it actually says, "Oh, I'm actually gonna skip to that." Or in this case, skip to here. Do what it says here until I see return, and then I'm gonna return. Boom, there. Yeah, pretty nifty for in terms of early computing. Pretty cool. So actually, go there, calculate this, calculates this, gets this, which ends up being the same thing as rolling a d5.
All right.
So it's a 20% chance of 1 to 5. And then all sorts of things calculated with that. For example, the yield of your harvest. So those bushels, 1 to 5. 5 would be the maximum. 1 would be the lowest. But all sorts of other things as well. Rats are running wild. Actually has a go sub, so it actually does this randomization one more time. It doesn't use the same random number, but still a 20% chance of something. And actually then it uses this to do something very interesting and weird. And it actually means that on a, I have to look this up, really. On a 2 and a 4, you're going to get a rat attack. On a 2, you're going to get a rat attack that is going to be a quarter of your storage. And on 4, you're going to get a rat attack that's half of your storage.
Oh, okay.
So, and we actually do the same over here. Let's have some babies. It's interesting statement, by the way. That's because babies, no, there's actually people coming to your city. It's not people being born. But then it actually ends up saying, like, okay, we're calculating, in fact, how many people are going to be coming to a city through this relatively complex algorithm, formula, as you see, in which you multiply your acres times 20, and you're also going to plus your current storage to that, and you're going to, you're going to divide that by, actually, no, you're going to first multiply that by this d5 that you just rolled before, and you're going to divide that by the amount of population,
and then divide it by 100 plus 1.
100 plus 1. So that actually, of course, depending on your population and your acreage and whatever, it can shift. Yeah. But it will always be somewhere between 3 and, well, not always some ways, but it realistically will be somewhere between 3 and like 13 or 14 people. So 14 is really, or 12 is really sort of normally the max amount of people that you can get in your turn.
Yeah.
But actually, if you look at this code, there's all sort of things happening that will make this game so much easier to do.
I like that the next line is how many people had full tummies.
Yes, full tummies. And there's even this, there's a 15% chance of plague. And here, it actually uses something else. Q. Q is now used, which is first also been used. You remember Q maybe because it has been input over here. Now they reuse that variable to say, okay, if Q is something like this, and you're actually going to check that over here. So if Q is larger than 0, then go to 230. Boom. But if it's not larger than 0, then actually do this. In this case, it says here, P is...
And then you get the plague.
You get the plague, and quite literally it says...
Half your population.
Half your population, exactly. So it says there's a 15% chance of plague. That's not correct if you do this calculation.
Oh.
Because it actually ends up going... and that's probably where I'm going to end it, because I actually think that this is a bit of a bug as well. Let me actually look that up real quick. So that's Q. So it actually is with this, and one of the interesting things about BASIC is that it would have been different for different computers. Even it was it's more of a family of languages then. But as far as I can understand, for the language that this was written for, Microsoft BASIC is the same that is on the C64. But it should have been the same. Ends up being, in fact, there's a 0.2. So a 20% chance of plague. If this has to be a 15% chance of plague, this should have been minus 0.2.
All right.
So I don't know if this is a typo or whatever is going on here, but there's clearly stuff going on here in the back end of it. Yeah. And then there's all sorts of interesting other statements about the way that they think this society would have functioned in the past. Of course, the trading and buying we already talked about a lot. And then, of course, this general idea that it's better to have a lot of acres than to have a lot of stuff in store, for example. Yeah. Anyway, we could run through this for a longer time, but you're tired.
We're at 3 hours of streaming almost.
Almost at 3 hours of streaming. I think that's plenty.
I think
what we need to do is condense these 3 hours of streaming into a nice
10 minutes episode.
10-minute episode of YouTube movies or whatever.
We got this.
All right.
We got this.
Thank you all for. I haven't even checked what you are still saying. No, all right. There's no movement in the chat either. So thank you all for tuning in for sure. Let me just go back to this lovely thing, and let me actually just stop the game right over here. Wait. Oh, it's actually already stopped. Let me just load. I just want to do this because I just love it. I just love the maze thing.
Put it back on our faces.
Back on our faces. Well, Hamurabi slowly moves out of sight while the maze loads.
Yeah.
I want to say that this is a maze, but I think that Hamurabi as an artifact is also a bit of a maze. There's so many twists and turns that you could go for when it comes to how it deals with the past, but also how it deals with its game history and its code base.
Yeah.
That, you know.
And also in terms of history, and it has, like, the actual history of the period is a bit of a maze. We still lack a lot of information. There is so much to explore, still so much to learn.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. Pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
I think it's been a blast doing this together with you.
It was great.
It's a bit more research focused stream and us talking a lot over PDFs and stuff like that.
Yes.
But I think it's going to be valuable, no pun intended, because this gives us a lot more ideas, I think, of how this foundational game actually got transformed into games that were following up on this. And maybe we can even play a couple of games soon that actually take parts of this. Yeah. Aside from Civilization, of course, which is a major thing, but there's some steps in between.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do that with. All right.
Thanks for tuning in.
It's weekend for us.
Thanks
for either tuning in or watching this entire freaking stream on YouTube.
Thumbs up for that.
You could wait a couple of months and then you have like a 10-minute video. Well, I don't know. This is never going to be a 10-minute video.
It's going to happen. We're going to make it happen.
I would like to see that. That would be like, in a way, that's the same thing that people had to do in early computing.
Yeah.
This major idea.
15,000 lines of code.
15,000 lines of academic talking, basically.
Just compress it.
Compress it into 4K words.
All right. See you, everyone.
See you, everyone.